Good. Well, I'm excited today to think about heroes. We're going to think about heroes. I bet you, like me, love a hero. I bet you, like me, spend a little bit of time, maybe even each day, thinking about yourself as the hero. I often do it when I think about playing hockey. I think about scoring that winning goal in a really important game. Or I think about making that really important tackle to stop the other team from scoring. Making that tackle that saves the day. I wonder what your favourite hero story is. I wonder what you act out when you're being the hero in the story, at home with your mask on and your cape on, bombing around the house, saving the day. The one thing that you have to have in the story of a hero is somebody in trouble, somebody who needs to be saved, somebody who needs to be rescued. And then you need a hero, don't you? Somebody who's going to come along and save them. Well, I love it. My favourite point in any hero story is that point where everything changes, where the hero swoops in, when everything seems to be as bad as it could possibly be. It seems like there's no hope left, and then bam, in comes the hero to save the day. Whether it's Spider-Man swooping in and picking up the person who needs rescued, or if it's Peter Rabbit and his friends making their plan to save the day, or the PJ Masks realising they need to work together to save the day. When everything's going wrong, bam, in they come to save the day. The hero comes in. When things are as bad as they could possibly be, when people are desperate, when people are wondering, what is going on? Who is going to save us? And then bam, it all changes in that moment. Well, that's where we left the story of Esther and Mordecai last week. We left it at that point. Things were as bad as they could possibly be. The Jews were going to be killed, all of them, completely wiped out because of Haman's plan. And Mordecai and Esther, we saw them making a plan. So let's have a little look now at our video to see, is this the point when everything changes, when the hero, when we see him swoop in? Let's have a look at our video. Esther did as she and Mordecai had planned, their plan to save the Jews. She approached the king, and because he loved Esther, he not only let her live, even though she had broken his law, he said that he would give her anything that she wanted. Esther invited the king and Haman to her party. She knew that the king loved a party, and whilst they were there, she invited them to another party the next day. Haman was so pleased.
Yes, I'm so happy because I'm important to the king.
He went home to tell his family and his friends how great he is. But on the way home, he saw Mordecai, and he became angry all over again because Mordecai would not bow down to him. So Haman planned to kill Mordecai the very next day. That night, the king couldn't sleep. He asked for a bedtime story, the chronicles of his reign, all the important things that had happened during his time as king, to be read to him. Do you remember what was recorded in the chronicles of the king? It was Mordecai saving the king's life by telling of the plot of the two guards who planned to kill the king. When it was read, King Xerxes says,
"What honour and reward has been given to Mordecai for this?" Nothing has been done for Mordecai, sir.
Just then, Haman came to the king's palace, wanting to ask for Mordecai to be killed. So we have the king, who's just remembered that Mordecai saved his life, and we have Haman, wanting to ask the king to have Mordecai killed. Uh-oh. Still thinking about Mordecai, the king asks for Haman's advice.
Haman, what should be done for a man that the king wants very much to honour?
Haman was convinced that the king must be talking about him. Who else would the king want to honour than great Haman? The king's top man, his greatest advisor.
This is what you could do for the man you want very, very much to honor. Have the servants bring a royal robe that the king himself has worn. And also bring a horse with a royal crown on its head. The horse should be one the king himself has ridden. And then let the robe and the horse be given to one of the king's most important men. Let the servants put the robe on the man the king wants very much to honor, and let them lead him on the horse through the city streets. As they're leading him, let them announce, "This is what is done for the man the king very much wants to honor."
Very good. Haman, go and get Mordecai, who saved my life, and give him all the things you've suggested. A royal robe, a royal horse, and I want you, my trusted advisor, to lead him through the streets of Susa, shouting, "This is what is done for the man the king wants very much to honor."
So it happened, just as the king ordered. Mordecai was honored by the king, and Haman was embarrassed and upset. He went home to even worse news from his wife.
You are starting to lose power to Mordecai. Since he is a Jew, you cannot win against him. You will surely be ruined.
It was all going wrong for Haman, and it was all starting to go right for Mordecai and Esther. But would their plan be complete? We'll find out, as it's time for Haman and the king to go to Queen Esther's second party for them. Esther finally asks the king for what she wants.
O king, my people and I have been sold to be destroyed. We are to be killed and completely wiped out.
King Xerxes, outraged, asks,
"Who is he? Where is he? Who has done such a thing?"
Esther says,
Him! Our enemy is this wicked man, Haman!
King Xerxes, full of anger with Haman, had him killed. Just as Haman had planned to kill Mordecai. And so Mordecai took the place of Haman as the king's top man. And with the death of Haman, the enemy of the Jews, it seemed that Mordecai and Esther's plan to save the Jews was working. Well, let's have a look as our story continues. Let's see if you're right, who the hero is and who needs to be saved. Did you see last week everything was going wrong for Mordecai and everything was going right for Haman, the baddie? Haman wants Mordecai killed. He comes to the king asking for him to be killed. Surely this is the end for Mordecai, and surely this is the end for the Jews. Surely God's promise to save them, it's going to end right here. It looks like it's all going wrong. But did you see? That's the point when everything changes. Bam! We see the hero. Everything changes there. Instead of killing Mordecai, the king kills Haman. His plot to kill his beloved Queen Esther and the man who's just saved his life, it's all uncovered. The king realizes, and he kills Haman instead. That's where it changes. But who is the hero? Is it Mordecai? Is it Esther with their plan? Is it the king because he's just had Haman killed, God's enemy? No, it's not any of those people. Like in all hero stories, the hero has been there the whole time, but we've just not seen them as the hero. They've been working in the background the whole time, but we haven't seen them until this point. And out of nowhere, in they come to save the day. Do you see who it is? It's God. Have a look at the pictures on the screen. Can you see Mordecai hearing the God's plan to kill the king and saving the king's life? Can you see the king being reminded that it's Mordecai who did save his life by uncovering that plot with his bedtime story? Can you see Esther winning the king over with her party to show that Haman is the baddie, he's the enemy, and he's killed? Now, the hero hasn't just come out of nowhere in this story. The hero's been there the whole time. Can you see it? Can you see the crown in the background of all of those pictures? God working in all things to bring about his plan, his rescue plan, to save his people. God has made this promise to rescue his people. People who have turned away from him and want to do things their own way. Like the Jews in Persia, like the Persians in Persia. And you know who else? Me and you. We've turned away from God. We're not friends with him because we want to do things our own way, not God's way. But God made that promise to rescue us from the punishment that we deserve for turning away from him. The promise isn't just for Esther and Mordecai and the Jews all that time ago. It's for us now, me and you. And you know what? God has kept his promise. I asked you last week to just whisper to the person next to you a little answer to a question that I had. I'm going to ask you a very similar question, and you're going to give a very similar answer, I hope. How has God kept his promise? How do we know it? Tell the person next to you, how do we know he's kept his promise? It's the same answer as last week. Did you say it? How has God kept his promise? Who is the hero in this story? It's Jesus. Did you say it? Did you hear it? It's Jesus is the hero. God has been working in the background all through his plan to save his people. And then he sends Jesus to die for us. Do you see that for you? When you look at Jesus dying on the cross, when you read about him rising from death and defeating it, he's the hero. He's the one who has rescued us from punishment, and he's the one who enables us, who allows us to be friends with God again. Do you see? God is the hero through Jesus, and we are the people who need to be rescued, like Esther, like Mordecai, like all people who have turned away from him. What an amazing rescue plan God has, and what an amazing hero Jesus is. We know God always keeps his promises. He always says what he has. He always does what he said he will do. He said he will save his people, and we know that he's done it through the Lord Jesus. Amazing promises, and that means that we can trust him now and forever. Well, I wonder, the next time you're playing the hero in the story, or the next time you see somebody else doing it, the next time you put on your mask and your cape to be the hero, will you remember who the greatest hero ever is? Will you trust that it's Jesus who saved us from sin, from turning away from God, and saved us for friendship with God forever? I really hope that you will remember him and trust him.